بين النور والظلماء شتان بين الرشد والإغواء شتان بين فتاة دين آمنت وفتاة دنيا في ربى الأهواء شتان بين النور والظلماء شتان بين الرشد والإغواء شتان بين فتاة دين آمنت وفتاة دنيا في ربى الأهواء لله در الحاملات أمانة الطامعات بجنة وجزاء الداعيات إلى الهدى في حكمة فلهم من الأعماق جل دعاء لله در الحاملات.
Okay, so this is what we're going to speak about today: how to remain firm in our practice of the truth, despite the fact that we are surrounded by people who don't live it. And again, our example is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what the term Sunnah means. The authentic Sunnah refers to his example. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that the call to the truth had to be made. He also knew that the call to the truth had to be lived despite the opposition. And he spent the first 3 years of his prophethood in Mecca. And what he would do was go to the Hajj, because even before the call to Islam, the call to the truth, the Arabs used to make pilgrimage to the Kaaba, because this was the house built by Prophet Ibrahim and Ismail. Okay. And they had filled the Kaaba with pagans. They would make pilgrimage to the Kaaba and they would pray to their idols, their pagans. So the Prophet spent the first 3 years of his mission, and he would attend the Hajj to try and call the Arabs back to the truth, because the Arabs would come from all around Arabia to perform this pilgrimage every year to their idols and their gods and that Kaaba. Okay, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that going on the Hajj would be the best time and the best place to deliver the message of Islam. So what he would do is he would follow the pilgrims around. He would go to their campsites. He would even attend their pagan festivals, just so he could convey the call of truth to them. He would stand amongst them and he would say, "O people, say that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and then you will be successful. And by this you will rule over the Arabs, and the non-Arabs will offer allegiance to you. And when you die, you will all be kings in paradise." This is what he would say as he would travel from camp to camp, talking to the Arabs, trying to convey the message of truth to them. But just as he went from camp to camp, trying to convey the message of truth, the enemies of the truth would follow right behind him, trying to tear down whatever effect he may have made on anyone. The same as what we see today from the hypocrites, especially on Facebook. The same thing we see today, whatever efforts that the people of the truth try to make, here comes the hypocrites trying to tear it down. For example, when the Prophet would go to visit the different camps, Abu Lahab would follow behind him. And he would, right after the Prophet would get through making this wonderful announcement, inviting the people to the truth, Abu Lahab would stand up. He would say, "Hold on, people. Don't listen to him. He's an innovator. He's a liar. He thinks he's better than us. He wants to take us away from the faith of our fathers." talk such a good game. And the simple fact that Abu Lahab was from the prophet's family. Remember, he was the prophet's uncle. Abu Lahab was one of the prophet's uncles. So was Abu Jahl. They were all his uncles. So the people would then look and say, Subhanallah. They would tell the prophet, these are your own people. These are your relatives. And they know you better than we do. If they are not listening to you, if they have not accepted you, and if they are not following you, what makes you think that we should? And that does make sense when you think about it, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Your own family, your own friends, they're telling me not to listen to you. And this is how it is today for us, guys. Today for us too, the people who are trying to live the truth. It seems that no matter what steps we take to live the true message of Islam, we have the hypocrites and the unbelievers doing everything to try and make us appear to be bad to others. Someone says something good about you, and the next thing you know, here comes the enemies of the truth, immediately trying to strip you of whatever goodness that the people said. You see it on Facebook. This is the same thing the prophet had to deal with. Whenever the people of truth, no matter what steps we take to try to convey the true message, to try to live the true message, the hypocrites, and they're worse than the unbelievers. The hypocrites will do everything to try to stand in the way. And the sad thing is, they will call you a bad person, but they copying off of you. Why they making their websites like yours? Why they trying to be like you? If you such a bad person, then why are you trying to be like that sister? Seems to me like you got some jealousy, because if that sister is so bad, then why are you trying to imitate her, trying to be like her, trying to make yourself a person of knowledge and making websites to resemble hers? And why are you trying to appeal to her people if she's so bad? Hello, you guys see that? No different than what the prophet went through. Many of you are experiencing that. You do everything in your power to convince your family that Islam is the best way of life for you. And no matter how many advancements you make to convince your family that this life is good, here comes somebody to tear it down. Your prophet was a pedophile. Women in your religion are oppressed. I heard that you can't even do this. See how it is? No different than what the prophet had to contend with. Okay? But despite the opposition that our prophet met, Allah still sent relief to him. And this is how it is for us. Despite the opposition that stands in our way, Allah will always send relief. And Allah will always reinforce the true believer. And this was the case with our prophet. Because despite the fact that the prophet was being belittled and called a liar and made fun of and rebuked by the people, Allah made it so that the Arabs of Medinah came to his aid. And how did this happen? Well, the Arabs of Medinah, they lived amongst the Jews. And for years, the Jews used to always say that there would be another prophet that would come. They used to tell the Arabs of Medina, a prophet will appear during our time, and we will follow him and kill you with him, in the same manner that the Ad and the Tram people were killed. So they always told the Arabs that. So one year, the Ansar went to make their Hajj. The Ansar was one of the tribes of Medina. They went to make Hajj. And as they were performing the Hajj, they came upon the Prophet Muhammad, who was preaching to the pilgrims. He was calling them to the truth. And one of the Ansar said, Subhanallah, you know, guys, the Jews have told us that there would be a prophet amongst us. Well, look at this. Here it is. We should not allow them to intercede us in following him. So why don't we listen to him? See what he has to say. And that's how it began. The Ansar listened to the prophet. They listened to him. And many of them began to embrace Islam. The prophet would meet with them during the Hajj. He would talk to them about the message of the truth, and Allah made them embrace Islam. This served as a reinforcement to the prophet. And eventually, more and more of the Arabs from Medina embraced the call to the truth. And eventually what happened was the Arabs of Medina, they swore protection and allegiance to the prophet. In fact, they pledged their support to him one day, and this is what he asked them to pledge. He said, I want you to pledge that you will hear and obey, whether you feel active or you are lazy. Also, that you will spend in the way of Allah, whether you are in difficulty or at ease. I also ask you to pledge that you will command the good and you will stay away from the evil, and that you will stand in the cause of Allah, and you will not care about what other people have to say. I also want you to pledge that you will support me if I come to you, and protect me from all that you would protect yourselves and your families from. And if you do all this, I can guarantee you that you will have paradise as a reward. And so thus, guys, the Ansar, they pledged their allegiance to the prophet. And Allah strengthened the prophet by sending them to him. And what happened eventually was the prophet ended up moving from Mecca, leaving Mecca, his home, for Medina, so he can continue to live the call to Islam, and his followers could continue to live the call to Islam without being persecuted and abused by the hypocrites and the unbelievers. And this is the case often for us today, guys. As we try to live Islam, to live the Sunnah in its fullest, to the best of our abilities, we often feel like we are alone because we're met with such opposition. The people against us, they will often seem to outnumber us. So you may end up feeling like you are alone. But just when you think that you are at the end of your rope, what happens? For the true believer, Allah always will send one person as a sign or a guide to show you that you're not alone. This has happened with many of you. Many of you felt like you were alone in wanting to seek the truth and wanting to live the true Islam. So you may have come upon one of my lectures on the internet. Many of you came upon one of my lectures. Allah guided you to that, to show you that you're not alone. And my lecture may have penetrated your heart. You may have listened to me and say, Subhanallah, she's speaking about me. She's speaking about how I feel. I'm not alone in this. She wants the same thing I want. So when you receive that sign, then you become faced with a desire to want to seek out the people of the truth. I want to find out who that sister is. Where's her website? Where does she lecture at? I need to be around her. Or you may seek out and say, I need to find other Muslims who are living their lives like me. So then you are met with the decision of relocation. You may have to relocate to another part of the world because you have realized that the people of truth, we are all bricks that make up one building. We strengthen each other. So even though we are outnumbered, even though the hypocrites and the unbelievers outnumber us, even though we are few, we are still strong when we are bonded together. And this was the state of the prophet and his companions, guys. They were small in numbers, but they all migrated to Medinah. And Medinah became the first Islamic state. And while they were in Medinah, they bonded as brothers and sisters. They stood united to the call, united to the call to the truth and its lifestyle. And they began to live it. This is what we have to do today. So thus, guys, we can learn that the people who are truly living the life of the truth, we will always be the minority in numbers. And for every step we take to try and convince the rest of the world that our way is a good way, understand that there will always be people of falsehood following us around, waiting to knock us down, waiting to destroy any advancements that we may make in convincing others of the truth. You write a good comment on Facebook, 10 seconds later, the people of falsehood will be there to knock it down. You make one step in convincing your family, your friends, your co-workers that your choice in life was good. Here comes the people of shirk and falsehood to knock it down. But again, guys, we should never lose hope. Never give up. Because just as you think that you are alone, Allah will send his signs of reinforcements. He will send his signs to show you that you're not alone. The key is being able to recognize the signs when you see them.
شتان بين فتاة دين آمنت وفتاة دنيا في ربى الأهواء شتان بين النور والظلماء شتان بين الرشد والإغواء شتان بين فتاة دين آمنت وفتاة دنيا في ربى الأهواء لله در الحاملات أمانة الطامعات بجنة وجزاء الداعيات إلى الهدى في حكمة فلهم من الأعماق جل دعاء